Pasa? What's going on?
I'm doing good.
Well, anyway, she's like that.
I don't know how to respond in Spanish.
You go ahead and find it. You do that again, that gives it a
I came out here to fetch ducks.
You can appreciate this mind.
Oh, was that where the two of us were next to each other? The best of buddies?
Yeah, that's what I call it. I said it's a buddy hug or something.
Let's see, we'll call that the BOB photo, the Bob photo.
That's all that is.
Roanoke Valley he's an avid bird. And when he had his, when he died, he had his son.
Yeah, well, that'll show him.
How avid he
Yeah,
was.
that
Just that knowing all the people in the bird club. What do you mean? We have a killer among us.
I have, when I was hunting, oh, this has been about 7 or 8 years. Story over and under. First time I fired a gun, 2 birds fell. And they were a drake and a hen. So I had them mounted, and I have them in my office at City Hall.
Everybody voting for everything.
I know the budget.
You know, I watched the guy, I was up in Scott Air Force.
I knew he was going to fail.
And I had some time to kill.
I
went out there, I was surprised.
Yeah, it was close.
They would get up like this, you vote false. And this old third guy, when they had the jackets on, the third guy standing there, had his kind of his overall looking things on, he had a jacket on.
Oh, did you come in? You might have done the carpet.
Never went to his shoulder.
Wow.
And I'm going like, no, he didn't really do that. But I sat there, these guys, and I watched him go all the way around to the positions and all the way back around. I don't think he missed more than 1 or 2. He never put the rifle to his shoulder. He just had it kind of tucked in his
He's obviously been doing it for a while.
Kentucky Wendy's right off the top of the barrel.
Why didn't you tell me that I should be involved in this? Because I also just
Oh, do you?
Oh, you might have been the only
my children used to say okay, water. I chase them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I like pheasants. Pheasants get the daylights out of them when they get out from underneath. Yeah.
Literally, unlike most of them, they landed. They weren't that far away.
Yeah.
So I said, let's separate them.
Yeah. What goes into? Yes, it goes into the storage thing. Goes into the basement. It was the same style of farm. Walking in, and there's cars.
The scales run a lot. Yeah.
Kitchen.
This is what team.
I just don't know how much it would cost. So
Yeah.
yeah, it'd be nice if it was the same style.
That's what quail do. That they and the fluttering, even though you know they're there, they scare you.
But you can ask them. I would prefer the current one just because I put it in my next little season.
Yeah.
But I had
Wow. Wow.
be there by the time you got there. The equipment on the ground by that time. And I had a female. It was fun. But I never was.
Oh, well, I'm about to start. I'm a county commissioner. I'm about to start a new board.
They used to live
Won't be here about 2 hours. Yes, I'm there all day. So it's a holiday. Will be off. If you guys can stop by and take a look at it,
high school. He and his buddies skipped school one day.
okay, yeah, I'll be there. Be there before lunch. That'd be awesome. That way I can figure out.
Because they didn't invite him to go.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Walking across
this should give us some flexibility. We should be good for our 4-year term.
Yeah, that is.
I think so. I mean,
Yeah, well, it's about time for us to get.
I think longer than that, we should be set for.
I'm very, very interested. We need to have a really deliberate. So where's Mark?
Hi, it's Jennifer. Hey. Hi, you're sitting next to me.
Oh, good.
Yeah. I think we're about to get ready to get the meeting started.
And then in 3 years, and then in 5 years, you have a turn down. I'm like, oh, we're going to work on it.
The other one about getting salaries to mid-weeks.
Okay.
Is he going tonight, right? For sure.
But Mahimo's together on that goes the right way. Because from my point of view, I feel like I've made a promise where the money's going. I am insisting on it staying there.
I was here at 2 o'clock.
You'll be there too. Yeah.
Although I got waylaid, I didn't have my 1 o'clock meeting today, so I was at City Hall.
Water.
I don't know where he is.
Where he is?
They're doing the, they had the security.
I didn't.
I'm leaving, and they came up to me and started asking me all sorts of questions. I gotta get there, I'm gonna get greeted. I'm not here by 2 o'clock.
Matt Smart.
We have a quorum? Sure.
Okay. I'm okay.
Good afternoon, sure.
Are we ready?
Yeah, you didn't get that.
You were busy. You were on the phone, and I'm ready to go.
What an awesome opportunity.
I got the email from the guy, you know.
Okay, now we're done giving people.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the PPRTA Board of Directors meeting for November 8th. We do have a forum here, and want to make everybody aware that Mayor Nicoletta is with us, but she's on the phone. So, Jennifer, are you making sure that...
Yeah, I will, I'll raise my hand if she starts talking, you know.
Okay, all right, thank you. Just to start out, Nicole, can you hear us?
Nicole.
Yes,
Okay,
She can hear me, but I don't think she can hear you.
okay. Well,
very little.
Talk in the mic.
It's very, very difficult, just FYI, for the past couple of meetings on the phone.
be a
Very
blessing,
difficult.
but we'll just let it go with that.
Is your mic on?
It is on.
Doesn't sound on.
It doesn't.
It doesn't amplify it to my team.
Nope. Here you go.
My blue light's working,
There you
but
go.
evidently it's not. Okay.
The light's on, but nobody's home.
Yeah, nobody. you knew that was going to happen, didn't you? So, all right. Let's call the meeting to order. We do have a quorum. We have in front of us the agenda, and there are no proposed changes to the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move for approval of the agenda.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? All right. The public comment period, is there anyone here in the audience who would like to speak to the board on an item that's not on the agenda? Seeing no hands, we'll move forward. The approval of the minutes from our October 11th meeting were sent to you. Are there any changes? Is there a motion to approve as presented?
I'll move for approval of the minutes from October 11th.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? All right. Let's go to the Citizens Advisory Committee monthly report. Jim, welcome.
Good afternoon, Jim Godfrey, Chair of the CAC. Hi, Nicole.
You didn't hear you.
Okay, so the Citizens Advisory Committee met last November, on November 8th, last Wednesday. I'll get it right in a second. The first issue we had was went over the 2018 budget presentations by the member governments. Each of the member governments, to include the staff, went over their individual budgets. Each of the committee members had an opportunity to ask questions about various aspects of the presentation. And the culmination of those discussions, we make a recommendation for approval of the budget as presented to you. The City of Colorado Springs brought forward 6 contracts. We discussed, though we did have a discussion, just to bring to your attention, one of their contracts was with NV5. It is a company that augments the city staff for project management functions. And we had asked them last year because it hadn't been open competition since 2010, we asked them to recompete that. They brought that back and requested that they recompete it next year. And Mike, correct me if I'm, but they have some major projects in which these people are actively engaged in managing that will close down during 18, and so they asked to be able to slip that open competition to 19 so they don't risk losing that critical piece of management support that they're getting, and we make a recommendation. We were okay with that. So we make a recommendation for all 6 of the city's contracts. The county brought forward a couple contracts. The city had some line item transfers, moving some projects that they're closing down and wrapping up. There was 2 of them, 2 different issues, moving them. First, some of them to Woodman Road widening, and the other one to Mark Circle North, and we make a recommendation to approve both of those as well. And if you remember, we had a discussion about the city paying for the rebuilding or replacement of a garage that was part of installing a sidewalk, then it would infringe upon the right-of-way, and the city paid for that garage. And after discussion of that, they asked the staff and us to recommend a policy. So in your packet today is a policy number 28. It's on the actual wording of the policies on the back of your memo. The CAC had a good discussion about that, and we recommend approval of that policy as presented. And then the other thing is just a reminder, I'm sure Rick will cover it during his part, but now is the time of season for reappointments by the member governments back to the members of the CAC. And so we ask you that for those of you who are missing members to please try to fill those, and those that are going to reappoint, please get those reappointments in so we can still have our quorum. Okay. So other than that, that's my report.
Any questions for Jim? Anybody in the audience have any questions? Jim, good report. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, let's keep moving. Let's bring up, is there a motion to accept the report?
I move to accept.
A second?
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Okay. Let's go to the financial reports. Bev?
Good afternoon. This morning we received our payment for September of $8,252,000 for sales and use tax compared to a monthly budget of $9,135,000. Now, we're short $883,000, but it was obvious that we were missing approximately $500,000, and it's our payment from El Paso County for the sales and use tax on vehicle registrations. However, they did make it. I called the Colorado Department of Revenue, and they had made the mistake of not crediting it to the correct account. So we'll see that next month. We'll get interest on it for the month, but that is $500,000 of it anyway. So, and on page 2, when you compare September of last year to September of this year, we're below last year by $391,000, but that $500,000 takes care of that. So, the next pages are the revenue and expense summary, putting this revenue into that format, and then the expenditures. And our expenditures are, always look a little behind because it takes a while to get the invoices from the member governments and credited to this report. Let's see. Another thing that I put at your places is the encumbrance reports that Commissioner Vanderwerf asked for. And I just, we give those to you approximately quarterly, so if there's any questions.
Okay. Is there any questions of Bev on the financial report? Okay. Let's go to the budget.
Okay, so the CAC had their budget overview last week, the workshop, and today's the board's budget workshop, and they made a recommendation to approve the budget, or for the board to approve the budget as presented. But I'll go over page 4, which is kind of the budget overview. And then if you wish to have the member government staffs come up to present their portions of the budget, you can either like pick or choose if you have any questions or however you want to do that. But on page 4, the sales and use tax revenue projection is $100 million, and it's the same as this year's. Although this year's we did increase mid-year. And then the estimated interest is $1.1 million. Sales tax collect costs, these are the expenditures that the DOR charges us, are $270,000. Administrative costs are estimated at $746,000. And anything we don't spend there goes back into the allocation at mid-year budget time next year. And then the reserve adjustment of almost $76,000 for a net revenue, not including the Fairbox revenue of $100,008,111. And then it's allocated on the second half of this page to transit, maintenance, and capital by 10%, 35%, and 55%. I don't want to kind of bore you by reading this, but does anybody have any questions about that?
Actually, just given the results of the initiative yesterday, how's that excess going, assuming there's an excess, what are we going to be doing with that? How's that going to be?
So it would be based on 2018 and 2019, so based on this budget, and then mid-year 2019 would be the first chance that we have to take that revenue over budget and put it
So
into
it's the next fiscal year then is when we would need to have a separate accounting or separate set up for that? Okay, thank you.
And Dick, just to remind you, it's only dollars above.
Above, right, I understand, it just was.
And only
Where do we-
55% of that for the capital portion, so.
But where would we put it is what I was, so, thank you.
It'll be kind of like a reserve until we get ready to use it.
Any other questions?
Yes, I do.
This is, yes.
Go ahead.
Jennifer?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me, everybody?
Yes.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, all right, thank you. So I believe we're on the budget for each different member entity, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I just wanted to do a shout out to Manatee Springs and Shelley Koba, who is our Public Services Director, and everything that we have here. You know, she came on board when a lot of these things were already in place, or at least started to be in place, and she's really moved them forward in a very conscientious, mindful way. And so I'm thankful for PPRTA and certainly for Shelley Koba. I believe she's there. Obviously, I can't tell because I can't see, but just thankful for what we have going on here in the budget.
Thanks, Nicole. This has been, well, I was off, I apologize. This budget was presented to the CAC, and each of the entities presented their portion of the budget to the CAC. The CAC gave us a full recommendation that this be passed. Do you want to hear from each of the cities, since the CAC has already done that deep dive? I didn't know. Okay. Is there a motion to approve the budget? Yes.
You don't need to do that till the December public hearing.
Okay.
So today is like your chance to give me
Okay.
some direction if you want any changes.
Okay. Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to speak to this issue? Yes, Jennifer?
Jennifer Irvin, County Engineer. I just wanted to mention, we've drafted a budget for Colorado Avenue at this point. We, as that project is ongoing, we are reassessing that, and we are continuing to work. There may be a change between now and December's budget in regards to that, but we'll let you know when that occurs. Just, to be as transparent as possible, that project, when we came, said we may be over, we may be asking for additional money at some point. I don't know if we're at that point yet, but we're going through the budget numbers and coordinating with all the member entities at this point. And I just wanted to give you a heads up that there may be a small change in regards to that project as that comes along. But we will, we're trying to go through the numbers right now since we've kind of been through the first 11 months of construction at this point to see where we are and how we're doing.
Okay, thanks, Jennifer. That makes a lot of sense to me since I drive it all the time. I don't know if many of you have driven it or not, but as they were putting the pipe down the middle of Manitou Avenue on that end of it, they took out rocks almost as big as as high as this room underneath there because there had never been anything under there before. So I know that there's been a lot of additional stuff that's taken place. They've done an incredible job, in my opinion.
Yeah, shout out to my staff member, Dennis Barron, who's the person who's dealing with the minute details every single day.
I bet he is.
And trying to make sure that, we're progressing on that. But I just wanted to let you know that because I don't want to come, if we have a change in between now and then,
Right.
and you be surprised.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Actually, if I
Yes.
just follow up, I presume, Jennifer, that you're giving us a warning here because there's probably a reasonable chance it's going to be over the budget.
Yeah, and it may not be through this budget, it may be next year, but
Yeah.
we're going through the numbers, we're working with the member entities, and I just want to let you know. I just want to be as open and honest and upfront as possible. You may not like the answer, I don't either, but we knew going into the project that we would have things like this come up, and I just want to make sure that you're aware of it.
I'd say the one other thing that I recall that I thought was very notable, in addition to kind of the other challenges and not really knowing for many, many years of use, overuse, in some cases abuse of that road and the nearby creek, I thought it was notable to me, if I recall right, that they found that rubber tires had been used a lot to shore up the creek, and that hundreds of tires were pulled out of that creek as part of this construction project, which was another component of above and beyond that was not expected. So there have been more than one type of surprise in that construction project. The good news about it is that as painful as this is, and as tough as it's also been for the local businesses there, when this is done, there will be a lot of great work, a lot of restoration, and a lot of opportunity for economic growth in that area. And I think that's what we need to stay focused on as we go forward, because I think it's going to be great when it's done with.
Yeah, thanks, Commissioner. I also noticed driving through it, I hadn't noticed before, there were not fire hydrants in the area. Now we have fire hydrants. It's just little things like that I think you knew that, but still it's stuff like that you're finding.
It is a ton, and I couldn't even begin to start on the list of things that we have found that we have not expected. But we are doing our best in controlling costs and our contractors being great. And I would just say the city staff and county staff and also Manitou staff are at the table. We're communicating, and that's an ongoing effort. And it's just been a great show of regional collaboration.
Jennifer, that's just an example that when we work together, we can solve all the problems. We just have to work together.
We try.
Yeah, you're doing a great job.
Thanks.
Anybody else like to speak? Okay.
So one of the things is that it doesn't matter when they figure out, as far as the budget goes, what the differences will be, because we could just line item transfer from other capital projects any month of the year. So
we are not approving the budget today. It said approve on my agenda, so that's why
okay.
So this is
yeah,
for
you're right.
information
It
only?
is. It's just at the public hearing next month that you approve it.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to the...
And Chair, I do have, I'm sorry
Yes.
to interrupt, I do have one other question, and it's in reference to, and maybe we are going to discuss it further in a later chart, but it's this one here that had the short one that's got the photo in the front. Looking at the cumulative and the differences between the actual and budget, I just don't know if I'm reading it wrong or if I see a typo, but it looks like the year total difference is $190K, but that seems to reflect the September difference only and not the previous month differences. So is that supposed to be a cumulative year total?
That is a cumulative.
So I think that's at least,
500,000.
yes, but if you look at the differences in the different months, we are talking at least $6 million difference. $6 million in additional revenue, but the year total cumulative doesn't reflect that.
So the year total cumulative, the actual to date is 73,264,000, and the year cumulative budget is 73,073,000, the second half of this. So
I appreciate that, but then when you go across in each month and come to the difference column,
okay.
and then you add up the difference column, it should equal something like 6 million instead of 190,000. Right? Unless I'm reading the chart wrong.
It's probably the way it's presented, because in the first part, it has all the monthly budgets versus the,
Yeah, I know, but you see, this number should represent the differences tallied up.
Those aren't cumulative, though. That row is not cumulative. That's the actual difference.
and maybe I should just have like cumulative instead of the first half of this, so it's clearer.
I think it's an interpretation of how it's presented to you, so maybe if you
I'll
could sit
I'll work
down.
on that, and
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Let's move to capital maintenance and public transportation contracts. Let's go with the city of Colorado Springs first, and I believe, Jim, you said all of these are being recommended by the CAC.
Correct.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Mike Chavez, city engineer. Erin, do you want me to go through them, or do you want to?
Why
if
don't
there's
you
que-
give the highlights?
Okay.
And,
So first item is for operation maintenance. They are purchasing 2 crack sealing machines to maintenance. Then the next one, they see construction contract for operation maintenance to install 3 manholes in a section of pipe that they will come back next year and line it under the road. Third item on Woodman Road widening, we had a section of road where we originally thought we could just mill and overlay, but it's not in good shape. We're going to have to take it out full depth and replace it. So the change order Wildcat for that one. Did talk about NV5. I think mid-year, June, I had asked, could I get 1 more year to renew it? And we had agreed to do that. So that's a renewal for 18, and then we'll recompete it in 19. Centennial extension, we have 2 contracts there. One is for abatement of more than likely asbestos material in the houses, and then the second one, contracts to actually demolish the houses.
Okay. This, just so we're clear on the NV5, you're committed to
Yes.
issuing that. Okay. And, all right, is there a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second?
Second?
Okay. Any other discussion? Anybody in the audience? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Okay.
Thank you.
Let's go to the county, and then I'm going to go to item 10A before we go to the others, because we're going to lose Mark.
Jennifer Irvin, El Paso County. Just quickly on Mark Shuffle South, this is a utility reimbursement, and this actual utility came in a little bit higher than expected. I will tell you that we have other utilities as we close out the project that came in lower, so this balances out. So we have plenty of money to cover this increase in the project budget. So we will also be bringing those decreases to you so that you're aware of those on those other utilities. But as with construction, you know, some items come in over, some come in under, and this is just one utility that came in over. And then West Colorado Avenue, this is just to be transparent. We had awarded the contract with years encumbrances because we didn't award all the money all at once. We awarded the contract in total. So this is the in 2017 encumbrances that we have not done yet. And we will be coming in with 2018. So just to phase, just to make sure that you're aware, it doesn't increase the contract, doesn't do anything to the contract. This is just more of a reporting formality.
And the CAC has recommended these for approval as well. Is there a motion for approval?
I move for approval.
Second?
Second.
All vote.
Aye.
Is that what you asked for?
I wasn't sure for a moment if you actually said vote there. You okay, Murph? You need a hand?
Oh, no. I hate when that happens.
I hate it when I do that.
Yes.
There's nothing you can, drink the water, no, just give it a sec.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I feel like I spent 3 months doing that last year.
You did like 5 months.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Take your time.
I think he's on his recovery there.
Yep, I think so. He's got water. It's okay.
Getting like Jennifer's presentation.
I've never heard that before.
The city approving the county part.
Really went down the wrong pipe, huh?
Yeah, I've done,
You know what I'm going to prefer to say when I go back and somebody says, how did the meeting go? I'm like, Murph got choked up over Jennifer's presentation. So that was awesome.
Sorry. It's okay, do you need us
You
to
get
call
like a
anybody?
5-minute break?
You want to take a break?
well, it's smart.
I'll just go ahead.
Okay.
So we're moving on to 10A, election status report. As you all know, we had an election last night. I don't know if anybody saw results out of that, but I wanted to pass on my personal thanks to everybody on the PPRTA board for helping share this vision, and certainly the staff members, Rick and our attorney Jennifer Ivey, for helping draft our ballot language and doing it rather quickly. I think that was outstanding. But our initiative passed, 5B passed with almost 2-1. It was just a little bit shy of 66% of the vote. It's absolutely huge for us. And so we're going to be moving forward with this project now. We do have a little bit of work left to do. We still have to finish amending the IGA. Thank you very much, Nicole, for all your work on Manitou to get that done already with your town council. Rama's also voted to amend the IGA, and so that just leaves the city of Colorado Springs, El Paso County, and Green Mountain Falls to do it as well, and I'm convinced that that's going to happen. And so it was a great election night. Our county initiative passed, 1A passed as well, and that passed just a little bit better than a 2-1 margin. So, I think our community recognizes and understands the needs to engage in meaningful transportation infrastructure to include I-25, and I'm convinced we're going to break ground in this time next year or early 2019. And one last thing. I have a little yes on 1A sign back here. Actually, it's a big one. I would appreciate it if everybody would participated in any meaningful way. If you wouldn't mind, just please sign it. Sign that so we have it for posterity. And I have to leave in 3 minutes, so if you could sign it before I leave, that'd be even better.
Okay.
Can we take a 3-minute break to sign that?
I move for a 3-minute break to sign the yes on 1A and 5B sign.
Okay. I am
Hey, Jennifer.
sending a note.
Is Shelley there?
Yeah, she is.
Would you guys please just sign?
Can she sign for me?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yes, she said she would.
Thank you. Great.
Mark, after I can make sure you get it by tomorrow morning,
Are you going to leave, Nicole?
or I can bring it to you if you
Well,
want.
do you need me for anything else?
We don't need you for a quorum. Do you want to leave? Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right, have a good day.
You too.
All right, bye.
For posterity.
Yes.
Are we going to bury it under the
Yes.
the third lane?
No, you see that we're going to heat it down on top of the, yeah.
Yes.
I got it.
I like to heat it down on the part.
Thank you, Mayor Nicoletta. You're awesome.
No, I think they want to push that.
I'm fine, thank you.
Hey, Mike? You're allowed to sign.
Don't be silly.
Mike, I'll bring it to you, okay?
This made my job harder.
Well, that's why I did it, Mike, just to make your job harder. All right, thank you all.
Do you want Nicole? I can take it out to Nicole, too.
No, I'll get her at a
fine.
later date, because I want to have somebody sign it out. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Mark.
Sure. Make it quick. Do it real small, but I supported your 5B effort. There you go.
500 signatures. Can I just have, no, you got it. Come on.
Thanks, buddy. All right, sorry to be disruptive. I got another meeting I got to get to today. Post.
Okay, let's come back together. Once again, I apologize. We do. We have 6 board members.
Mayor Nicoletta just dropped off.
Okay, we have
But
5.
you have 5, which
so
is
we do
still
have a
quorum.
quorum. My spent the last 10 days in Florida with my daughter and son-in-law. They're in the Air Force, and my granddaughter gave me a cold. So you know how that is when you're around, when your children are young, and then when the grandkids come around. So I apologize for that.
You have a cold? Did I shake your hand?
Yes, you did. Yeah, you better wash yours. All right, let's go to the City Colorado Springs Transit Services report.
Good afternoon, Craig Blewett, Transit Services Manager with the city. A very brief report today, this month. Looking at the report in the agenda packet, our local route, fixed route service, we did have a second decline in a row for a month, and that is unusual, so we will keep an eye on that. I will point out that this year we had one less weekday and one more Saturday than the previous year's month, and that can account for about half of the decrease. But it is something we'll keep our eye on. The ADA service, a couple things to point out there. We had a fairly sizable increase compared to the same month last year. And if you look at or see in the chart that below that this is the highest level of ADA service we've had in the past 33 months. And so there's a good demand for our ADA service, and we're providing that service. And also the boardings per revenue service hour at 2.7 boardings, passengers per revenue service hour. That's very high. Anything over 2.0 we're happy about. So 2.7 is the highest that I've noted in quite a bit of time as well. Van pools, we continue to struggle with van pool ridership. There is reduced interest in our van pool program. But what I can tell you once again is that our vans are full. We're just running fewer of them. So we do have the ability with less demand to scale back, run fewer vans, but make sure they're full, so they are running efficiently. And that's really all I have. On the downtown center, just a couple things to mention. We have been in contact with the property owner. They're very aware of our interest in their property for our project, and that's going well. And we have a meeting tomorrow with the Federal Transit Administration to talk about our next steps in moving forward and make sure that we do everything according to Hoyle with regard to the feds. They are a major contributor to the project, and we are very much aware of that. So that's all I have for today.
Thanks, Greg. Any questions?
The ADA rides are up, right?
Yes.
So, and I understand that I called about my balance, and they said that the computers were down for a couple of days. Are they up yet?
That I don't know. I do not know the answer to that question. I get that to everyone we're going to get back. But that happens every so often.
Yeah, okay. Just want to make sure how much money I have in there.
Any other questions for Craig? Anybody in the audience? Okay, thanks, Greg.
Thank you.
All right, let's go to the draft board policy number 28. Rick, will you be presenting that, or? Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped down to the wrong place. I apologize. Let's go back to the City of Colorado Springs Capital Project line transfer request.
Good afternoon, Mike Chavez, City Engineering. So the first item we have is the closeout of some RTA1 programs that we'd like to line item transfer the money to the North Mark Sheffield project, which we had discussed previously about moving money to there as it became available.
Is there any questions related to that? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Go to the next one.
Next item, and again, RTA1, this is closing out some city capital projects, and as we close them out, we're requesting that this money be moved to the Woodman widening, basically, pretty much to offset the change order that we just approved, the additional asphalt. And then as we finish up Woodman, if there's any leftover monies, that'll be going to North Mark Sheffield next year.
Okay.
Motion.
Okay, is there a second? All right. Any discussion? Anybody in the audience? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
And then I have just the monthly change order log, if there's any questions on those.
Is there any questions on the change orders? Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. All right. Now we'll go to the draft board policy number 28.
Good afternoon, Rick Sonnenberg, Pikes Peak RTA Program and Contracts Manager. The board leadership recently learned of a City of Colorado Springs invoice that was paying for the entire demolition and relocation of a garage that was incorrectly in public right-of-way. And the board and CAC leadership asked for, went ahead and authorized that invoice to be paid, but asked for a new board policy to address such situations in the future. And on the backside of your memo is the draft board policy number 28 that states that whenever a member government determines the need to spend PPRTA funds to relocate, demolish, or rebuild a structure such as a house, garage, or shed, but not including fences, which are located within these things right away in order to construct a PPRTA-funded transportation improvement, such request must be presented to the CAC and the board for approval before any spending commitment is made.
Okay. There's a reason for this because there was like a $30,000 expense that when the CAC and the board heard about it, we didn't know that possibility was there, and so we just feel like that's not as transparent as we want. And this policy doesn't say it has to be a certain amount. It just said if there's a building that has to be moved, it has to get prior approval before you can fund it. And this is also recommended by the CAC who did the work on this. And Mark also wanted me to tell you that he is very supportive of this. So is there a motion to approve this board policy? Yes, David?
Mike, can I ask you a question? What is your position as a projects engineer on this project?
We're all in favor of this project, this policy. This is kind of unusual. Typically, we have paid for structures when we've needed right away from a property owner, and they have something in the way, and during the appraisal process, the damage to their property or whatever gets assessed and they get paid. This is unusual. I don't think it'll happen very often, and it's easy enough to come to the board and say, hey, we think we're going to have to, we'd like to pay for this.
In any way, and the concern I've got is that it doesn't become an obstacle to an ongoing issue. Is that if you're in the middle of a road project,
Mhm.
for instance, and then this comes up and the next meeting is 3 weeks away, are we going to have to stop construction? for
No,
this?
because knowing that this policy is in place, if we suspect, and we'll know initially, as soon as we survey and, start laying out plans, we'll know if there's an issue and we can come
All
early
right.
on.
Yeah.
I'd move.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second, but I did have a comment.
Go ahead.
So my question is kind of just building on that. It sounds like you guys discussed, why wasn't there a limit, say $500, so you guys could just take care of it if it was less than that? Was there any discussion on that? Or, the thing here is you don't want to have to pay for something that's $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 without approval, but if it's something that's an actual shed that's worth $100, to have to come to the board, that's where I think we were kind of going with that. So I'm fine with it, it's just, don't know if we wanted to, we've already seconded it. That was my comment. I don't want this to slow down.
No, like I said, I don't.
Something insignificant.
Mhm.
Or,
Mr. Chair, and when you have a chance.
And then, Jim, did you want to speak to it also? He can speak for the CAC, who had this discussion.
Jim Godfrey, the CAC. We discussed this, Mike and I did, about should there be a dollar threshold, and his response was it's just easier, structure to structure, do it without having to go through waiting if it's 500 or 1,000 or whatever.
Mr. Vanderwerf?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So just a kind of a question for me. I noticed that the CAC voted 13-2. I am kind of interested in what were the two's objections, if you have that available. But then also, I think there's a series of different kinds of scenarios in a process like this. So if the right-of-way was in pre-existence and then the homeowner builds a structure over that right-of-way, shouldn't it be the obligation of not the homeowner but the property owner to clear that? But if it was a right-of-way that didn't exist previously and then that right-of-way is created maybe because of a new construction road project or something, then this policy sounds fine. So I'm just asking, what's the differentiation between those two, and does this proposed policy only apply in a particular way, and how did you work through those ideas or issues?
So right-of-way encroachments are very common. We had a lengthy discussion at the CAC meeting. But typically it's usually people's gardens, maybe some rock retaining walls or fences. If we need our right-of-way back and we come in and the very common, there's some older parts of town, the sidewalks are only 3 feet and the fences are right behind the sidewalk, and the right-of-way is about 5 or 6 feet back. We put in 4-foot sidewalks, so the fence is in the way. Projects typically just reset the fences back of the right-of-way, and it's not a big deal. So, so as far as it's kind of standard practice, This case, we did not need more right-of-way purchased, but it was in the way and it was high dollar, so it kind of brought up the conversation. And again, we're good with it. If we suspect there's something in the way and we need to move it, we'll come to the board. As far as the vote, I think there was just some concern that the RTA shouldn't be paying for relocating fences and property restoration.
And up to my point.
And my point to the board or to the CAC was that's a standard practice. We restore the disturbances, we create projects, restore it, and it doesn't matter what the funding source is. If it's federal funds, if city funds, if we need to, make people's yards whole again, we do that at project expense.
I mean, I think I'm willing to vote for this, but just to kind of take logic to a larger scenario, somebody builds a structure that costs $500,000, and it just happens to have 2 feet in the right-of-way, and it's actually their fault. They failed to address that properly. Are we somehow obligating ourselves to?
No, I'd have to come to the board, and then we'd come back. If it was something of that magnitude, no, we wouldn't want to relocate it.
Yeah.
Again, these encroachments are usually old, the fences I was talking about, built in the 50s. This garage and this house has been there as far as I can remember when we started looking to put a sidewalk on Airport, and I've been here since '93 working. So it was there already. So code enforcement does a good job of catching things beforehand So we don't have as many new encroachments, but there's a lot of stuff from years past.
I'd also say that by bringing us back to the board, it keeps the staff from being perceived as being arbitrary. And so the board can help make that decision with them as they move forward. Any other discussion regarding this? Anybody in the audience like to speak to this? We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to the appointment of the Citizens Advisory Committee members.
This is simply an information item, a reminder that certain CAC members from member governments, there's a CTEB member on the CAC, the HAC member on the CAC, and Tanorama member on the CAC. And then there's the at-larges, and for the board's information on the at-large and at-large alternates, there's a board policy that prescribes that a subcommittee of the board, which is the board chair, vice chair, and then the CAC chair, those three meet to review the applications for the at-large and at-large alternates. We did advertise as the board directed, and we did receive some additional applications, both external and internal to the CAC. And the subcommittee's going to meet next week to review the applications and hold interviews, and then they will prepare a recommendation back to the full board at the December 13 meeting regarding the at-large and at-large alternate seats.
Okay. Is there any questions regarding that? We'll be meeting on the afternoon of the 15th when we scheduled that. So
I do have one comment, just a quick update with Mr. Dills, and this is item B. Part of our obligations here to make this all work right. I believe I have signed a letter that is authorizing the reappointment of Mr. Dills, and that's the process we need to do in order for it to go forward. And I don't know that may have gotten over to you yet. Is that correct? Or you look like I'm misspeaking.
I'm going to speak on behalf of my experience with the CAC, and it was a recent board policy put in place about 2 years ago. We're only allowed to serve 2 terms.
Board of County Commissioners.
No, to serve for HAC. So he has to be appointed to the CAC as a member at large. He can't go back as the CAC member.
I'm sorry, I'm confused.
No, I'm referring to the HAC here.
Yeah, the HAC, he's term limited. And the members representing the HAC to the CAC have to be members of the CAC, or a HAC. Boy, I'm going to get mixed up with that. Sorry.
The county addresses, I think we're okay.
I think we're okay as well.
Okay.
But, okay.
He can't come back to the CAC from the HAC if he isn't a member.
Let me get back and do the research and find out what we did in the county. I believe it's resolved, and maybe I misspoke as far as who we appointed.
Okay.
But
There's
all right.
two dimensions. It is if Ed continues on the HAC, then we're fine. But I believe Ed told me that his term would be up in February or March at the HAC, so he couldn't serve on the county's HAC anymore. Therefore, he couldn't be a HAC rep to the RTA CAC.
Let me just check.
Yes. So, but if he can,
Sorry, I brought it up.
if he can continue serving on the HAC, then he can continue. There are no term limits of member government memberships on the CAC. There's only term limits for the at-larges.
Okay.
So if he's okay continuing on the HAC, he can continue on the CAC.
Let me go ahead and look it up. I'll get back with it.
And I would just say that after what we just went through with Merv, we ought to watch what we're talking about with the HAC.
I'm a qualified member for the HAC. Okay. Anything else regarding the reappointment or an appointment of board members?
On 10D, this is just a reminder that the board bylaws mandates that each board member serves a one-year term, a calendar year basis. So if you would like to be reappointed by your body to this body, please proceed to do that and let us know, or maybe your clerk can let us know when that happens.
Okay.
Also, officers, just a reminder that at your January meeting, according to your bylaws, you'll need to pick officers, and for the January 2018 meeting, it flips as far as the chair and vice chair, so the county will be the chair. So one of the county directors will need to be the chair, and a city of Colorado Springs director would need to be the vice chair.
They flip every year.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. And just for my colleagues, I'll talk with each of you and coordinate that with our President Scorman. Okay? I believe there's, Jennifer, we do not have an executive session, is that correct?
Correct. Just to report to the board that the PPRTA's response brief was filed on Monday, along with the Department of Revenue's response brief and an amicus brief supporting our position by the City of Colorado Springs. So I've now forgotten the number of days, but
20.
Thank you. Walmart gets to reply again. They get the last reply, and then it's in the court's hands. Thank you.
All right.
This is why I'm not a litigator, because I can't remember the dates.
All right. Any other questions? Is there any actions regarding litigation? We don't have anything there as well. Is there any PPRTA member announcements? Okay. And with that, we're adjourned.
Yay.
I think you became a deacon to protect you from getting struck by lightning, right? Is that what it was?
No. I've done those before.
That's funny.
so-
That was fun. Oh, this is that hack thing. Thank you, Stan, for bringing up the question.
Yeah.
Frank was able to keep hack and hack separate, because I was in my brain.
They're talking about